Hey guys, welcome to the channel. I'll just be giving you some of my thoughts right after our game against Manchester City, which we lost 4-0. So yeah, these are just some thoughts that I had during the game, and I thought I'd put it out for you guys. Something I'm thinking of experimenting of just putting my post-game thoughts of what I felt about the game and what I feel about a particular aspect of the game I found interesting and how that may relate to a wider role in the season. I'm primarily not only looking at this from a football perspective, but also in other sports such as cricket or things that basically interest me, I guess. Just do know that I'll be just looking down towards my laptop because that's where I've made my notes. So if there is a point when I'm actually looking down into my laptop, that's because I'm looking at my notes. I really respect Manchester City first of all for giving us a guard of honor. I think it's well within the team's rights to pursue that. And as Klopp mentioned, that it wasn't really necessary, but he can understand why a team would do that because of, let's say, the tradition that it holds in the English game. And I really respect Man City for actually doing that. I think I mentioned this a few times, but I really think that they're a really good football playing side. I think they have a coach I really admire in Pep Guardiola. I think he's put about a good system in play of players who aren't only technical but actually are really good individuals. I'd say from the bottom of their hearts. I think they play. I think they play really good football, but also have this much broader vision in mind, which is to be better individuals. This game really reminded me of one of Klopp's very early games against Pep Guardiola, rather. And the scoreline was also very similar. I'm forgetting what the scoreline was. It was maybe 4-0, 5-0, something along those lines. And this was also at the Etihad back, I think, a couple of seasons back. But on that day, Liverpool were disadvantaged though, which is something you could put to this Liverpool side as well, because you could say that winning the title in such sense may have put them to a disadvantage because they didn't take the game too seriously. But I didn't. I felt you could aim that at them, even though they were really good in patches in the first half. I don't think they capitalized on every moment in the first half, but I do felt that they did play well in the first half, even though Man City did shine above Liverpool, if you may put it that way. I feel you could say that City were basically better than Liverpool in every aspect of the game today. I think they had much more of the ball, which is generally associated with City sides, and that's what Liverpool have been used to as well when we play City. It's that we basically surrender possession to them and let them have the ball, and then we try to, let's say, counter press. However, I saw that less and less in this game. I did see that Liverpool did try to do that. However, I didn't see the tenacity that I'd associate with, let's say, the bigger Champions League games, or even some of the bigger league games that Liverpool have been associated with. I think there was a sense of, let's say, calm amongst Liverpool players, saying that it's all over. There isn't anything else to strive for as such. So I felt that was something I really noticed, and I feel that that isn't good, obviously, especially when you are taking against a side like Man City. And especially when I was talking about the possession statistic, I feel that generally Liverpool are the ones to squander away possession. They just give it away so that they can capitalize on the team, on us not having possession, to find spaces and capitalize on the mistakes that the team would do with possession. But in today's game, I didn't feel we squandered away possession as such. I think that it was City who basically grasped hold of the game rather, and tried to capitalize on that. So in the first 15 minutes, in the first 20 minutes of the game, I think there was a possession statistic of 70-30. I mean exactly, that just shows like the ball possession between two sides. Obviously, that's not the only thing to bear in mind when we are actually, let's say, analyzing a football game or trying to see what a side did good and didn't do good. But that does play a massive role, especially with a side who's as good as Man City, and they are as good on the ball as Man City. I think that Liverpool and Man City fans can associate with their sides is that both their sides play a high line, which means that the last line of defense is usually much closer to the midfield line, and in the case of Liverpool, the forwards are even compressed to the midfield line. So it's a very compressed shape that they put forward. But City play in a similar line. I wouldn't say that their defense and midfield are as close together, but that the defense hold a much higher line, which allows for pacey players to get in behind and teams lower down to basically exploit that. And Liverpool for themselves have actually done that in the sense that they've used the pace of Salah and Mane on the wings to exploit these teams who try to play a high line and don't have the fastest of defenders. We saw very much of the same case today with Man City. I think they played a forward line of Foden, Jesus and Sterling, and obviously there was almost every moment that Jesus could get in behind, he was trying to get in behind Van Dijk and Gomez. So as I mentioned, like Liverpool were really capitalizing on, let's say, the pace of Salah and Mane on the wings, which meant that Liverpool was trying to play much longer balls and balls in the channels basically. So in the first half, there were moments where Trent Alexander-Arnold, our right back, he basically tried to play a diagonal ball from towards Mane, and there were a couple of times it was actually overhit and not perfect for Mane to capitalize, but the idea was there and Liverpool were trying to get behind. So I'm not just going to try to say that Liverpool didn't really play well. I think they had their patches in the first half. I just didn't think that it was as good as we as Liverpool fans have been used to. But I guess that's very fortunate of us to say that. But yeah, I think there were moments that Liverpool did get in behind, and there was a Salah chance where Salah hit the post very early on, and that could have actually changed the whole dynamic of the game, because if Liverpool did score then maybe we weren't looking at, let's say, such a dominant display from Man City, because that may have dampened their feelings around the game, and as a result maybe impacted the result. Something else I'd really like to point out is Kevin De Bruyne. I'm a really big fan of the guy. I think that this was one of his other brilliant performances. I think De Bruyne was just like weaving his magic around the pitch. I think Peter Dury on his commentary said that whenever De Bruyne plays at the Etihad, he can basically do anything around the pitch, and it basically seemed like that, because he was just trying to go into pockets and thread balls which people basically can't see. And those were some things. And the other thing was that it may be the most simplest of passes, but the accuracy at which he puts it forward, the weight of the pass, it's just immaculate. And it's just a shame that City had a forward such as Jesus who didn't really capitalize on it as much, because he was often going offside and not capitalizing on the balls that De Bruyne was putting forward. But I mean, I'd love to have him at Liverpool if I have to put it this way, because I mean he's just a magician, and I think City fans, when they are actually raving about him in such an extent, I think they are right. I think he is a brilliant player, and yeah, I mean I'd really love to have De Bruyne, and I think this was a really good performance from him. I think scoring the first penalty and then contributing to most of the other goals, I'd say. Let's look at each of the goals that City scored, I guess. So the first one was the penalty that De Bruyne converted from the foul that Gomez committed on Raheem Sterling, which is obviously another big thing, because they don't really go well together, do they? Joe Gomez and Raheem Sterling. So basically what happened was that Raheem Sterling was in the box with Joe Gomez, and Joe Gomez had his hands in a very compromising position around Sterling's arms and trying to pull him back basically, and the referee gave away a penalty, and rightfully so. I think that you can't have your hands in such an uncompromising position in the penalty box, and with a player like Sterling, who isn't, let's say, the most physical of players, and is and can go down with the slightest of touches. So I do feel that was one of the things that Gomez, I think, didn't take too seriously, or maybe he was just a little casual, which again points back to the whole thing of, let's say, Liverpool winning the league, but how aware or how ready were the players really? So that's something that really annoyed me, because I felt that could have been stopped. And on another day, I'm pretty sure that Gomez would be able to have stopped that. But the penalty that De Bruyne converted was great. He picked his spot and he just slotted it there. So no qualms about that. I think like his performance, his penalty was good as well. I think the second goal as well. When we're looking at it, I think it was a really good pass by De Bruyne, and then Sterling's touch, which basically took Van Dijk and Gomez out of the game, and then he just slotted it past Alisson. So it does seem simple, but that's what City and that's basically what City have made football. They've made football really simple for the common man to understand. But then when we are looking at these things, we have to understand that the waste on these passes are like really accurate, and then for a player to actually put that forward on, let's say, a stage like the Premier League, it takes a lot of time for a player to train like that. And I think that City have sort of normalized that at this standpoint, and we just gotten used to it, I guess. But yeah, I mean, great goal, great pass. So yeah, credit to City. Looking at the third goal, so this was the goal that Phil Foden scored. So it was kind of a lob over Alisson. And I was actually listening to the commentary at halftime. Basically, when we were talking, then they were talking about Alisson's position being suspect, because very similar to Edison on the other end as well, that they are very much like many Brazilian goalkeepers, very happy to come out of their box and, let's say, play sweeper keeper as what's been touted. But what often happens is that they compromise, let's say, the essentials of goalkeeping, and in this situation, Alisson caught himself in no man's land, and this wasn't the only time he did that. In this game, there were a couple of other instances where he didn't really make his mind up if he had to come or had to stay back. Generally, what I have had coaches tell me is that when you are a goalkeeper, and if you are committing yourself to come out for, let's say, punching that ball from the corner, or just grabbing that ball, you have to commit fully. You have to go get the ball or get the man. Otherwise, you're just compromising yourself and your team, basically. And I think Alisson did that in this sense. I think it was a relatively easy goal for Foden to score. Not that I'm taking anything away from the goal. I think that Foden's a great player, and I think he deserves much more minutes than he is currently getting at City. But yeah, I think great goal, but definitely something that Alisson has to look into. The second half wasn't too dissimilar for Liverpool, I'd say. I think that the performance may have decreased, because I don't think there was the same intensity as I was seeing from Liverpool in the first 15-20 minutes, and that's odd to see, because I'd say that when Klopp would have got the boys at halftime, he would have probably told them what he felt was wrong, and probably just got into the ears to say that they're champions of the world. How can they have been performing like this? But I genuinely feel that the performance deteriorated, and Klopp brought on Ox for Gomez, and that pushed Fabinho in defense. And that was something I saw in the first half, that even when Gomez was in, Fabinho was dropping to make like a 3 to push Trent and Robbo on, but that just wasn't enough. I didn't feel that there was enough impetus being put from Robbo and Trent on the wing back positions to create, let's say, enough tension to push Mendy and Walker back, because I felt that Mendy had a superb game. I think he was putting some great balls into the box, which were really difficult for the Liverpool defenders to deal with. I just didn't think that Liverpool gave too much the other side, that, let's say, our fullbacks Trent and Robbo were pushing, let's say, the Man City defense back. That's sort of, let's say, what I felt about the game. I think that there's still a lot to take away from the game. I feel that there's a lot that can be experimented with. I think we didn't see a lot from the midfield, which I really expected. I really feel that our midfield is our cog basically in the system to work. I feel that if our midfield and, let's say, Firmino work well, I think the system works really well, because those guys are the workmen in our team. So if the Hendersons, the Wijnaldums, the Fabinhos don't work and get the ball back basically, then it's very difficult for Firmino, Mane, Salah um, to actually score those goals because the balls aren't there. And in this game, I feel that was pretty imminent because our players just weren't getting the ball back. I think it's very. I mean, there was a lot of times that he had in the midfield, which isn't what you'd expect when Liverpool are playing a big game. Because when Liverpool are playing a big game, the midfielders, the attackers don't really have time to have on the ball because the midfielders are on them. But in this game, that wasn't the case, and I feel that was, let's say, the biggest downfall, in my opinion, for Liverpool. Because I feel that if we did have enough impetus in the midfield area, I think the game would have turned out a little differently, I'd say. But it'd be interesting to see what Klopp does in the next game, because many say that, let's say, the season's already up, so he doesn't really need to play all the big stars, and he can probably provide some game time for the youngsters, which I totally agree with. However, after such a big loss against such a big rival, I'd say it'd be difficult for me, from what I know of Klopp, to, let's say, for him to move away from the team that played today to, let's say, a younger team against, even though it may be Aston Villa, because he'd want these players who've lost today to go on against Aston Villa and just do it right, and just tell them that they are still champions of England, champions of Europe, and champions of the world. And yeah, he just won that, and then maybe he can try to fiddle in Nico Williams and Curtis Jones and the other bright talents we have coming through. But yeah, I mean, that's what my thoughts were for the game. I mean, I am disappointed that we didn't really win the game this time, but I can't really be too fast, because we have won the league, and it's such a big point difference at this point. I mean, I would generally be really unhappy after Liverpool lost, but I mean, I would just like to point out, let's say, things I didn't like from the game, rather than criticize the whole game that Liverpool played. But yeah, I mean, that's what I felt, and if you'd like that, I can continue making things like this, of games I watch, if of things I'm interested in, and yeah, thanks for watching. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Bye.